Because there's people here, and it's not that they all want to hear the class at Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it's going to be very, very soft, but I believe the volume is loud enough for all of you. Let me set a notice now to everybody. Hold on a second. Give me 1 second. All right, notice, and we'll make sure that we're online. Okay. Whoops, not online. Wait a second. Let me just check this out again. Uh, should be online. Yeah, we're online. We're live. Okay. So hopefully everybody's all right. And give me 1 second. All right, so we'll chant Jai Radha first. As I said, we have to be really, really soft. Okay. Oh, someone sent a chat. Yeah. Okay. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Iri Baradhauti Gopi Jana Vallabha Iri Baradhauti Yashodanandana Murajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Murajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhauti Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhauti Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya also Tara Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govardhanath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Ki Jai Mathuranam Ki Jai Jagadada Swami Kajai, Yamunamai Kajai, Shimati Glasidevi Kajai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Kajai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasaya Bhutale. Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namadi Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nevashesha Shinyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni. So, Om Gana Timidanda Shah Gadanjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmeditam Yena Tasmai Shi Gurave Namaha. So I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. And as I've been describing to all of you, I am in an airport just coming back from the New York Rath Yatra, where we had thousands and thousands and thousands of devotees celebrating Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra. It's actually one of the best Rath Yatras I've ever seen in New York, because people are coming out for the first time, probably the first parade they've been at in a year and a half or 2 years. And it was simply an amazing occasion. So anyway, so we're in the Newark airport. We're getting ready to fly back to North Carolina. So let's continue with our study of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. Please excuse all the background noise because you got a lot of people chatting and chitting in the background. But I think because I have the microphone right next to my mouth that it won't be a problem. And I do have to wear a mask because we are responsible. And you have to do that in all the public transportation places in America. And hopefully no one got the virus today at the Rath Yatra because the devotees weren't wearing masks and there were some anti-maskers there. So God knows what is going to happen. Not with me, but with some other people. Okay, so let's continue. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Give me 1 second to set up this thing here. Alright. We are on the 6th chapter of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. And we just begin, 7th chapter, sorry. We're just beginning the 7th chapter of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. And this is another wonderful chapter about the Lord's travel to South India. All right, give me 1 second just to get all my ducks in order. And if you don't know what that means, it's an American expression saying, just get everything on the computer proper. 1 second. Here we go. Alrighty. Text 1. Dhanyam dham nomi chaitanyam vasudevam dayadrchedi nashta kushtam rupa pushtam bhakti tushtam chakarayaha. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being very compassionate toward a Brahmin named Vasudeva, cured him of leprosy. He transformed him into a beautiful man satisfied with devotional service. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the glorious Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda Prabhu, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. E Mate Sarvabhaumera Nistara Karila Lakshina Gamani Prabhuraicha Upachila. After delivering Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the Lord desired to go to South India to preach. Magha Shukla Pakshi Prabhu Karila Sanyasa Aguneya Sishakaila Ilachale Vasa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order during the waxing fortnight of the month of Magha. During the following month, Falguna, he went to Jagannath Puri and resided there. Falgunera Sheshidola Yatrase Dekila Prema Veshe Tanravaho Nrityagita Kaila. At the end of the month of Falguna, he witnessed the Dola Yatra ceremony, and in his usual ecstatic love of God, he chanted and danced in various ways on the occasion. Chaitre Rahi Kaila Sarvabhauma Vimochana Vaishakera Praratame Dakshina Yaite Haila Mana. During the month of Chaitra, while living at Jagannath Puri, the Lord delivered Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and at the beginning of the next month, Vaishakha, he decided to go to South India. Nija Ganayahani Kai Vinaya Kariya Alingana Kari Savaya Srihaste Dariya Toma Savajanayami Pranadika Kari Pranachara Yaya Toma Savacharite Na Pari. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called all his devotees together and holding them by the hand, humbly informed them, "You are all more dear to me than my life. I can give up my life, but to give you up is difficult for me." Whew. So much love Lord Chaitanya had for his devotees, just amazing. Tumi Sava Bandhu Mora Bandhu Kritsha Kaile Ihanadi More Jagannatha Deha Dekhaile. You're all my friends, and you have properly executed the duties of friends by bringing me here to Jagannath Puri and giving me the chance to see Lord Jagannath in the temple. Eve Savastane Muni Magone Kadane Sabe Mela Ajna Deha Yaiva Dakshine. I now beg all of you for one bit of charity. Please give me permission to leave for a tour of South India. Vishvarupa Hudeshe Avasya Hamiyava Ekaki Aiba Kaho Sangena Laiba. I shall go to search out Vishvarupa. Please forgive me, but I want to go alone. I do not wish to take anyone with me. Now, for those of you who don't know, Vishvarupa is Srila Prabhupada, is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's elder brother who left and took sannyas. And why did he take sannyas? Very interesting story, which he told before, but some of you can hear again. Once upon a time, Vishvarupa's mother and father, which is the same mother and father of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, were discussing something very important for parents. And what is that important thing? Who will marry my son or daughter? And they were discussing this, but when Vishvarupa heard these words through the wall, he became so upset that the very night he left and took sannyas. And Vishvarupa is considered to be an expansion of Lord Nityananda, that is, an expansion of Balaram, the same thing. And so he is Lord Chaitanya's brother. It's also mentioned that when Vishvarupa left this world, that particular expansion entered into Lord Nityananda. Now, if you ask me to explain what it means, entered into Lord Nityananda, that is very esoteric and something that we cannot explain. When the Supreme Lord expands, or the Supreme Lord unexpands, if we could use that particular word. It is not that some identity ceases to be. It's just that some particular expansion may not be manifest anymore. Okay. Setu banda haiteyami naha asiyavat nilachede tumi saba rahibe tavat. Until I return from Setu Banda, all of you dear friends should remain at Jagannath Puri. Vishwarupa Siddhi Prapti Janena Sakala Dakshina Desha Hudarite Karena Echala. Knowing everything, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was aware that Vishwarupa had already passed away. A pretense of ignorance was necessary, however, so that he could go to South India and liberate the people there. Shuniya Savara Mane Vaila Mahaduka Nishaba Haila Savara Shukaila Mukha. Upon hearing this message from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees became very unhappy and remained silent with sullen faces. In other words, they were very unhappy that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would be leaving Jagannath Puri because they were so attached to his association. And this was, of course, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's plan, so that the devotees would experience Vipralamba Seva. Vipralamba Seva is a very interesting concept. Vipralamba Seva actually means that one is actually connected with the object of one's love through the feelings of separation. So, Nityananda Prabhu Kahe Ache Kai Che Hai Ha Ekaki Eve Tumi Keha Sahaya. Nityananda Prabhu then said, "How is it possible for you to go alone? Who can tolerate this? Viyaka Sanghe Chaluka Napada Hatarange Yare Kahatse Dui Chalutumara Sanghe." Let one or two of us go with you, otherwise you may fall into the clutches of thieves and rogues along the way. They may be whomever you like, but 2 persons should go with you. Very, very nice. Okay, we'll continue. Dakshinera Tirthapata Ami Sabajani Ami Sange Ai Prabhu Agnya Deha Tuhi. Indeed, I know all the paths to the different places of pilgrimage in South India. Just order me and I shall go with you. Text 18. Prabhu Kahe Ami Nartaka Tumi Sutradhara Tumi Aiche Nachao Taiche Nartanamara. The Lord replied, "I am simply a dancer and you are the wire puller. However you pull the wires to make me dance, I shall dance in that way." Sannyasa Kariyami Chalilam Vrindavana Tumi Amalana Hale Advaita Bhavana. After accepting the sannyasa order, I decided to go to Vrindavan, but you took me instead to the house of Advaita Prabhu. Of course, that's in reference to Lord Nityananda tricking Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, telling Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he was going to Vrindavan, but actually deviating him, and even telling him that the Ganges River was the Yamuna River. And in this way, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Shantipur, saw Advaitacharya, all the other devotees, and also his mother. Ilachilaya site patsevangila moradanda Tomasavara gada snehe amara karya banga. On the way to Jagannath Puri, you broke my sannyas staff. I know that all of you have great affection for me, but such things disturb my activities. So Lord Chaitanya doesn't want any of the older devotees around him. Just listen to this. Jagadananda chahe Amavishaya Vunjaite Yeka He Sevaye Chahiye Karite. Jagadananda wants me to enjoy bodily sense gratification, and out of fear I do whatever he tells me. Kavu Yadi Inhara Vakya Kariye Anyata Krode Tina Tina More Nahi Kahe Kata. If I sometimes do something against his desire, out of anger, he will not talk to me for 3 days. So one thing that's very important to understand is that Jagadananda Pandit is the incarnation of Satyabhama. Satyabhama is Krishna's wife, who is in the mood of a left-handed wife. What does it mean, left-handed wife? That means an unsubmissive wife. Now, Krishna has 2 types of girlfriends and 2 types of wives. The right-handed wives and girlfriends are submissive, and the left-handed ones are unsubmissive. Of course, Radharani is the head of the unsubmissive girlfriends. And Krishna enjoys this talking back to him much more than he enjoys the submissive wife. So he enjoys the left-handed wives, the left-handed girlfriends even more. So Jagadananda Pandit is in that mood. And as we'll read later on as we go through the Caitanya Caritamrta, Jagadananda Pandit actually was so angry one time when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused to take some sandalwood oil that Jagadananda Pandit locked himself in his room for 3 days and did not eat anything or did not come out of the room for 3 days. And finally, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to give in and allow Jagadananda Pandit to cook for him. And other times, Jagadananda Pandit wanted to give him a soft bed, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected that because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to uphold the highest standard of sannyas life. Sannyas life means renunciation, and renunciation means that one should not get into bodily enjoyment. Should accept the minimum necessary to keep the body and soul together, not the maximum. So, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't want Jagadananda to come with him. He doesn't want Lord Nityananda. In other words, he doesn't want anyone coming with him who's going to tell him what to do or advise him. He wants to be free to carry out his mission in South India. Mukunda hayena tuki jeki sannyasa dharma tinabare shite snana umite shayana. Being a sannyasi, I have a duty to lie down on the ground and to take a bath 3 times a day, even during the winter. But Mukunda becomes very unhappy when he sees my severe austerities. Antare duki Mukunda nahi kahe muke ihara duka deki mora viguna haye duke. Of course, Mukunda does not say anything, but I know that he is very unhappy within. And upon seeing him unhappy, I become twice as unhappy. So the reason Mukunda doesn't say anything is that Mukunda is actually extremely submissive to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One time, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sort of didn't speak to Mukunda for some time, and Mukunda never went and reproached Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about that. And even there was that story one time when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was displeased with Mukunda. And because Mukunda had been associating with the wrong types of persons, and then Lord Chaitanya refused to let Mukunda into his assembly. And Lord Chaitanya was asked, when will Mukunda actually get your association again? And Lord Chaitanya replied something like millions of births. And Mukunda got very happy at that point and said, I will get, I will get, I will get. So complete submission to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That was the mood of Mukunda. Amita sannyasi damadara brahmachari sadaraheyam marau para shiksha dandadare. Although I am in the renounced order of life, and Damodar is a brahmachari, he still keeps his stick in his hand just to educate me. So there's many stories about Damodar too. In hara age ami And we'll read about them later on in the Caitanya Charitamrta. In hara hagyami na jani vyavahara, in harina vaya swatantra charatra amara. According to Damodar, I am still a neophyte as far as social etiquette is concerned. Therefore, he does not like my independent nature. Lokapeksha nahi in hara krishna kripa haite, ami lokapeksha kavu napahari charite. Damodar Pandit and the others are more advanced in receiving the mercy of Lord Krishna. Therefore, they are independent of public opinion. As such, they want me to enjoy sense gratification, even though it be unethical. But since I am a poor sannyasi, I cannot abandon the duties of the renounced order, and therefore I follow them strictly. Prabhupada explains the brahmachari is supposed to assist a sannyasi, therefore a brahmachari should not try to instruct a sannyasi. That is the etiquette. Consequently, Damodar should not have advised Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of his duty. So we can say that, let's just talk about this a little bit. You could say that Damodar should not have done that Lord Chaitanya was displeased with him. However, at the same time, Damodar was doing it out of love. So at the same time, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was pleased with him. So, now listen to this. This may not make sense. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was pleased because he was displeased. And these are the actions of love. Just like Lord Chaitanya may get angry, but he's enjoying his anger. Or Krishna gets angry when he's killing the demons, but he's enjoying. So he's happy that he's angry. So he's happy because Krishna is the enjoyer of rasa, and Lord Chaitanya is the enjoyer of rasa too, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is exhibiting anger here. And hold on a second, I dropped something on the floor. Whoops, sorry about that. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is exhibiting anger, and Lord Chaitanya is enjoying that anger. Even though that anger means, it's so funny, even though that anger means he's displeased, he's not happy with the actions of Damodar, which, I can't get over this contradiction, which is really interesting. He's not happy, but at the same time, Damodar is a pure devotee, and Damodar would never do anything to make the Lord unhappy. The Lord would never become displeased. But out of a pastimes, or for pastimes' sake, the Lord is displeased. So the Lord is displeased and pleased with his displeasure. I hope everybody understands that point, because it's quite an interesting point. And that actually comes out in Krishna's pastimes quite a bit. How Krishna is the enjoyer of ras. So part of that enjoyment of ras is when you're angry or displeased with someone. Krishna, not me, of course. Krishna's angry or displeased with someone, he actually enjoys that because it's an exchange of ras, it's an exchange of love. And Krishna doesn't do anything that he's not pleased with or that does not make him happy, because Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Ooh, very complicated. So you should all remain here in Lachal for some days while I tour the sacred places of pilgrimage alone. So Lord Chaitanya wants to go alone. Actually, that's also an important point. When one goes to a sacred place of pilgrimage, it's a real pain in the... Try to say something nice. It's a real pain when you have to take care of a whole bunch of people at the same time, and everyone's giving you advice, and you're having to babysit for everybody. And, I've experienced that too. It's an austerity. So, usually, going to a holy place, they just make an announcement here. Usually when going to a holy place, it's good to do it in a very quiet fashion. In fact, later on, we're going to read the story of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meeting Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. And Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami advised Lord Chaitanya, and at that particular point, Lord Chaitanya is on his way to Vrindavan. They advised Lord Chaitanya not to go to Vrindavan at that time because there's a whole entourage following Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they said, it's going like going with a circus. So when one goes to a holy place, especially Vrindavan, we're not talking about Kumbh Mela or something like that where you can just like let it all hell break loose. But when you're going to like a really deep, deep place to just get into deep meditation on Krishna's pastimes, like Vrindavan, then it's best not to have like thousands and thousands of people. That's one reason why I really haven't gone on any of those public Brajmandal parikramas, because it's not, I can't really meditate internally on Krishna's pastimes when these things are occurring. And plus another thing, this is what I was thinking about this when I was hearing about one particular pastime recently, is that to hear about these intimate pastimes of Krishna, one should be hearing about them in the association of those who are actually qualified to hear about these intimate pastimes of Krishna. Otherwise, for me, it's like salt in the sweet rice. I don't know if you understand what salt in the sweet rice is, or sand in the sweet rice. That a little bit of sand, I guess sand is what this usually used. A little bit of sand in the sweet rice actually makes it unpalatable. So it's important to worship Krishna and Radharani, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at a certain level with those who are at the level or have the adhikar of being at that level, being able to hear those particular pastimes. Otherwise, to me, it's just like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but to me it just doesn't strike me as something that I want to do. I mean, if it was up to me, I would just go alone, camp out in Vrindavan. Of course, that would be too dangerous to do that. But I would just like walk around Vrindavan, pitch a tent, a sleeping bag. But, unfortunately, that's not going to happen in this lifetime because it's just too dangerous with all the dacoits, all the monkeys and everything else that's out there. So I can meditate on that. In Hansavaravasha Prabhu Haye Ye Ye Gune Doshodopa Chale Kare Guna Ashvadane. Actually, the Lord was controlled by the good qualities of his devotees. On the pretense of attributing faults, he tasted all these qualities. All the accusations made by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu against his beloved devotees actually showed his great appreciation for their intense love for him. Yet he mentioned these faults one after the other as if he were offended by their intense affection. The personal associates of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes behave contrary to regulated principles out of intense love for the Lord. And because of their love, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu himself sometimes violated the regulated principles of a sannyasi. That doesn't mean he broke the 4 regulated principles or had anything to do with ladies. That's not the point. But some of the austerities that a sannyasi was supposed to follow. For example, when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was feeding Lord Chaitanya right after he took sannyas, he was feeding him a humongous quantity of food, which is actually prohibited for a sannyasi to eat. In the eyes of the public, such violations are not good, but Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was so controlled by his devotees' love that he was obliged to break some of the rules. Although accusing them, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was indirectly indicating that he was very satisfied with their behavior, pure love of Godhead. Therefore, in verse 27, he mentions that his devotees and associates place more importance on love of Krishna than on social etiquette. There are many instances of devotional service rendered by previous acharyas who did not care about social behavior when intensely absorbed in love for Krishna. Unfortunately, as long as we are within this material world, we must observe social customs to avoid criticism by the general populace. This is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire. So, of course, if we are, let's say, with only the very, very advanced pure devotees, and these advanced pure devotees exhibit certain things that are not conforming with social custom, that's all right. But in public, everything should conform to social custom, or else it's going to call our movement into disrepute. So one thing, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada stresses that we should act in such a way that our movement, that Krishna is respected, the philosophy is respected, and we are representatives of the philosophy, representatives of Krishna. So if the representative is actually disrespected, then Krishna is naturally disrespected. And we see this sometimes when some devotee does some crazy thing, and it hits the news, and then the movement gets criticized. Caitanya Bhaktavatsalya Akatya Katana Apane Vairagya Dukkha Karena Sahana. No one can properly describe Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's affection for his devotees. He always tolerated all kinds of personal unhappiness resulting from his acceptance of the renounced order of life. Se dukadeki ye bhakta dukkha paya se dukkha tanrashakje sahana yaya. The regulative principles observed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were sometimes intolerable, and all the devotees became greatly affected by them. Although strictly observing the regulative principles, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could not tolerate the unhappiness felt by his devotees. Well, some examples of that would be when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would just lie on the floor without a cushion. And the devotees really wanted him to have a bed. So ultimately, they tore apart some of his old garments and used them as some sort of bedding, half bedding, so that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wouldn't have to just lie directly on the floor. Gune doshodgara chale sava nishedya ekaki vrami vena tirtha vairagya kariha. Therefore, to prevent them from accompanying him and becoming unhappy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared their good qualities to be false. That's really interesting. Prabhupada says, the Lord wanted to tour all the places of pilgrimage alone and strictly observe the duties of the renounced order. Tabe chare jana bahu binati karila swatantreshwara prabhu kavuna manila. Four devotees then humbly insisted that they go with the Lord, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being the independent Supreme Personality of Godhead, did not accept their request. Tavi Nityananda kahe ye tumara dukkha sukha ye hauk akartavya hamara. Thereupon Lord Nityananda said, whatever your order is my duty, regardless of whether it results in happiness or unhappiness. Kintu eka nivedana karonara vara vichara kariyataha kara angikara. Yet I submit one petition to you. Please consider it, and if you think it proper, please accept it. Kopina bahirvasa arachala patra arakichu nahiyabe sabehe matra. You must take with you a loincloth, external clothes, and a water pot. You should take nothing more than this. Tomara dvi hasta maranama ganante jala patra bahirvasa bahivake mane. Since your two hands will always be engaged in chanting and counting the holy names, how will you be able to carry the water pot and external garments? From this verse, it was clear that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting the holy names a fixed number of times daily. The Goswamis used to follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Haridas Thakur also followed this principle. Concerning the six Goswamis, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatana Goswami, Srila Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, Srila Gopala Bhatta Goswami, And Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, Srinivasacharya confirms, Sankhya Purvakadamagananativi. That's from the Sad Goswami Ashtaka, number 6. In addition, that means basically Sankhya Pur. They were counting. Sankhya means to count. They were counting the number of 9 names that they were chanting. In addition to other duties, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced a system of chanting the holy name of the Lord a fixed number of times daily as confirmed in this verse. Tumara Dvihasta Badanama Kannade. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to count on his fingers while one hand was engaged in chanting, the other hand kept the number of rounds. This is corroborated in the Caitanya Caritamrta and also in Srila Rupa Goswami's Stavamala. Badnam Premavara Prakam Vitakaro Grantim Katidara Kai Sangyatum Nijloka Mangala Hare Hare Krishneti Nam Nam Japan. That's from the Chaitanya Caritamrta, number 16. Hare Krishna Tuchai Spurita Rasano Namaganana Kritaganti Shreni Subhagakati Sutrojvalakaraha. That's from the Pratama Chaitanya Ashtaka. Therefore, devotees in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must chant at least 16 rounds daily. And this is the number prescribed by the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Haridas Thakur daily chanted 300,000 names. That doesn't mean 300,000 rounds. That means 300,000 names. 16 rounds is about 28,000 names. There is no need to imitate Haridas Thakur or the other Goswamis, but chanting the holy name a fixed number of times daily is essential for every devotee. 16 rounds is about 28,000 names. That would mean there's something wrong with that calculation. Anyway, we'll figure it out later. Let me figure it out now. Where's my pen? There's 16 names. Hold on a second. I'm going to do a little calculation on my calculator. Okay, 16 names in the Maha Mantra times 16 rounds times 108 is, 28,000. But if Chaitanya, if Haridas Thakur did 300,000, so it's about 28,000, 300,000. Let's just do this calculation. Well, it doesn't make sense right now. It would mean that he was doing 171,000. 171 rounds. Doesn't make sense. Anyway, there's nothing wrong with the calculation here. The 16 names. 16 names times 16 rounds times 108. Okay, I forgot 108. That was my calculation. 16 times 16 times 108. Yeah. Anyway. 16 times 16 times 108. Okay. We'll figure it out later for everybody. So, Prema Veshe Pati Tumi Haveya Chaitana Esava Samagri Tumara Ke Kare Rakshana. When along the way you fall unconscious in ecstatic love of Godhead, who will protect your belongings? The water pot, the garments, and so forth. Krishna dasaname e sarala brahmana inho sange karila dara nivedana. Sri Nityananda Prabhu continued, here's a simple Brahmana named Krishnadasa. Please accept him and take him with you. That is my request. This Krishnadasa, known as Kala Krishnadasa, is not the Kala Krishnadasa mentioned in the 11th chapter, verse 37 of the Adi Lila. The Kala Krishnadasa mentioned in the 11th chapter is one of the 12 Gopal's coward boys who appeared in order to substantiate the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is known as a great devotee of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. The Brahmana named Kala Krishnadas, who went with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to South India, later Bengal, is mentioned in the Madhya in the 10th chapter, verses 62 to 79. One should not take these two to be the same person. There's actually a really good reason why Prabhupada is making this point, that they're not the same person, because the Krishnadas who went with Lord Chaitanya to South India had spiritual difficulty when he went with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to South India, and we'll hear about that later on in this particular chapter. Jalapatra Vasravahi Tomasange Yabe Ye Tomare Chakara Nikichuna Balibe. He will carry your water pot and garments. You may do whatever you like. He will not say a word. That's what Lord Chaitanya wants. He wants someone, a servant who is not going to get in the way of Lord Chaitanya's ecstasies. Just somehow or other serve and be quiet. That's why Lord Chaitanya wants new people with him at this point. Tavitanra Vakya Prabhu Kari Angi Kare Tahasavalana Gila Sarvabhauma Gare. Accepting the request of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, Lord Chaitanya took all his devotees and went to the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Namaskari Sarvabhauma Asana Nivedila Savakare Militabe Asane Vasila. Alright, as soon as they entered his house, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya offered the Lord obeisances and a place to sit. After seating all the others, the Bhattacharya took his seat. Okay, I figured out what it was. It's actually, Haridas Thakur was chanting 1 lakh of names a day, 100,000, not 300,000 as it said in the purport. That was an editing mistake they made there. Nana Krishna Varta Kahi Kahila Tanhare Tomara Tani Ailan Agnamagi Vare. After they have discussed various topics about Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, have come to your place just to receive your order. Sannyasa Kari Visarupa Gyache Dakshine Vasha Karibahami Tanra Anveshane. My elder brother Vishwarupa has taken sannyas and gone to South India. Now I must go to search for him. Agna Deha Avashahami Dakshine Chaliva Tomara Agnate Suke Leuti Asiva. Please permit me to go, for I must tour South India. With your permission, I shall soon return very happily. Shuni Sarvabhauma Haila Atyandakatara Charane Dariya Kahi Ishara Uttara. Upon hearing this, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became very much agitated. Catching hold of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave this sorrowful reply. So I think we're going to end here, and we can take questions. Hopefully I'll be able to hear you. I got my headphones on, so I should be able to hear everybody. Let's stop sharing. And take you all off of mute. Okay, who has a question? Whoops. Does anyone have a question? Question.
Gurudev.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Well, I hear two people speaking. Who's first? I think Madhva was first.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Gurudev Dandavat Pranam. So I have that question that when I think Sarupa Damodar Pandit was instructing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to what he should not have done, as Prabhupada was saying in the purport, but then you explained further why he was doing. Actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was internally enjoying, but he was doing externally to fulfill the sannyasi requirement. So, but
Yeah.
Prabhupada, he does not elaborate on that. He said he should not have done that. I was thinking that he could have also said, Prabhupada, further, as you explained, yeah, the intricate things, how did he do it? And but the situation was other way around. It was really, he was enjoying. So that was made fully understand. So, but it was the purport, only that part was kind of hard, was hard to understand why Prabhupada
Yeah.
said so,
Yeah, but if we take the first of all, it wasn't Sarup Damodar. It was Damodar
He,
Pandit.
it's a different person. Okay.
Yeah, different Damodar. So that's
Oh,
the first.
okay.
That's
Oh,
the first point. I better whisper, or else people will get
I'm
upset with me
sorry.
here. No, it's not your fault. I'm. It's my fault. I have a tendency to speak too loud. So it was Damodar Pandit,
Oh,
and secondly, Prabhupada later on in the purport uh, explained that Lord Chaitanya enjoys it when the devotees sometimes break the ordinary etiquette to serve him. So on two levels,
I
things
see.
are happening. One is that Lord Chaitanya is displeased that ordinary etiquette is being broken. But on another level, it's because it's being broken by love, because of the love of devotee, not because a devotee's offensive, then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is appreciating it. Or because a devotee could never do anything that would
Yes.
displease the Lord. I mean, it's
Yes.
impossible.
Mhm.
Impossible for a pure devotee like Damodar Pandit to do anything that would displease the Lord. So we can understand that his displeasing the Lord is pleasing to the Lord. I mean, it's a complicated understanding of Ras and Bhav. And yeah, that was brought out in the Bhagavatam class I gave a few days ago. We were talking about something very, very similar in relationship to Krishna. That, sometimes Krishna doesn't want something, but actually a devotee does. And then Krishna's pleased when devotees does something he doesn't want because it's a pure devotee. Anyway, Krishna could never be. The main thing is Krishna could never be displeased with a pure devotee, even though a pure devotee does something he shouldn't do.
Yeah, if I have one more question, if I
Okay.
may. It was yesterday when we were discussing, you were describing one thing. I wanted to make a comment which I really like, that your explanation when you're describing Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, when he was surrendered fully, but he was going through a traumatic, so you said described in modern language, a post stress yeah, trauma, yeah, drama disorder,
Yeah.
PSTD. That was a
PTSD. Yeah.
perfect, yeah, that was a perfect kind of explanation and the word in modern day to understand fully that he was having nightmare, although he was surrendered, but he was doing all that so much wrong for a long time. He realized, and he was having nightmare, traumatic experiences. I think you described. I
Yeah.
really love that analogy, that example. I want to share that with you,
Yeah.
and I really
Yeah.
like that. It was so easy to understand. Yeah.
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 I was speaking about that in regard to when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wanted to change a particular verse in the Bhagavad Gita, the
Yes.
Bhagavatam.
Yes.
Mukti, he wanted to change Mukti today. He wanted to change
Bhakti
Mukti
Pada.
today to Bhakti today,
Yeah.
because he because of, he couldn't stand because of his previous
Yes.
experience with Mukti and his
Yes.
being preached to
Yeah.
by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He couldn't even stand the word Mukti anymore. To him, it was just like a
Yes.
traumatic word.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You actually find many instances of post-traumatic stress in the Vedic literatures. I was thinking of one in the Ramayana. You remember Uncle Marich,
Uh-huh.
who was the uncle of Ravana. So
Right.
what happened is that Marich and Sabahu were attempting to destroy the sacrifice of Viswamitra Muni. And then Ram and Lakshman came, and Ram and Lakshman killed Sabahu. And they actually sent Marich into the ocean like 800 miles away. So Marich was a little traumatized then. Then later on, Marich tried to kill Lord Ram by taking the form of an eight-legged beast. And Lord Ram fired his arrows at Marich. And Marich had to run away, and he escaped from Lord Ram's arrows. This was the second time. So then, uh-oh.
It froze. Video froze. I don't know what it is.
Okay, oh, I understand. The stable, the internet. You can hear me now?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, the internet was a little unstable here. So Marich was actually traumatized by coming in touch with Lord Ram, and that's why he refused to do what Ravan asked him to do at first. But later, when Ravan said to him that if you don't do what I say, I'm going to kill you, Marich then became resigned to becoming killed by Lord Ram rather than Ravana. And actually, Prabhupada tells that story several times. Okay,
Thank you, Maharaj.
thank you. Who else has a question? There's some question in the here. How to avoid familiarity with the guru, devotee's holy name. One has to always remember their servants. Uh, what is it? Vadanvi sarvadana mate. One has to approach things with caution. Just like, I'll give you an example. Here's my famous example again. Uh, I was driving the other day and I got a ticket, and you've all heard the story before. And so now I am cautious. I drive. My whole method of driving a car has actually changed. Now I drive like a little old lady. I stop at all the stop signs. I don't go more than 1 mile above the speed limit. I, it's incredible, my whole style of driving, because I'm super cautious because I got burnt. So anyway, so that's the point. If one remembers the danger, which I always remember because I'm suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder from getting stopped by the police. It was, I mean, actually, it was so traumatic that even after that encounter with the police, my heart was beating really fast. I couldn't sleep that night.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very traumatic because I was going too fast and I knew I was wrong. I was just having fun in my car. So therefore, when one learns from experience, one becomes more cautious. But with the guru, one shouldn't learn from experience. One should learn by hearing. That's more important. Okay. So how do we know if someone is offensive by a body or if they're just ignorant and innocent? That's another good question. Well, if someone keeps saying that the Lord's personality is illusion, then we know they're not innocent. If someone says, I don't know if the Lord has a personality, I'm not really aware what the highest truth is. It seems to me the highest truth must be effulgence or the one, or we're all one, then they may be more innocent. But when they start blaspheming, I think the real point is when they start blaspheming the personality of the Lord, Avishananti Mam Hudha. That's described by Krishna in the Gita. Those who think that I've assumed this foreign personality, they are mudhas. Muda means they're asses. So we don't bother to preach to asses. Unless you happen to be a Mahabhagwat, then you could preach to asses. But myself, I don't bother to preach to asses. So that's how we know if they actually are offensive or they're just saying both. Many people could say bogus philosophy or speak bogus philosophy or philosophies, but offensiveness is something different. Someone says, I'm one, we're all God. That's pretty innocent. But if one says, the form of Krishna is just illusion, one should give up the form of Krishna. Why are you worshiping just stone? God is not in the temple. These are all offensive statements. And then we should generally stay away from people like this. Pretty easy to distinguish. All right. Any other questions? Any other questions here?
Did
Yeah.
Lord Chaitanya used both hands for chanting, or one hand for chanting and one hand for counting?
Yeah,
So
one hand for one hand for counting, for chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. What? That's Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And then, for each mantra, up to, I'm not sure how many he did, and then he would count the number of rounds on his left hand.
Okay, so no beads and no bead bag.
Yeah, but the ghost, from this description, it appears to be like that. I can't say. I'd have to ask someone who's more expert. I'm not going to speculate. I do know that you can see beads that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used when you go to the Gambhira. So, I'd be speculating, which I'm not going to do. I do know the Goswamis of Vrindavan use beads because you could see the beads that they use, the Tulsi malas that they used. So that would be simply my speculation, how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting, although I've seen devotees sometimes chant on their fingers and then count the numbers on their left hand too. I mean, I do know that Lord Chaitanya used beads because I know you could see the beads that Lord Chaitanya used. So I know that probably didn't answer your question. But you could see the beads are there today for those of us who go there to see. And we should use beads. Prabhupada used beads, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used beads.
Beads are there, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
That's what I just said.
In Puri, Gambhira.
That's what I just said. Amrita Karna, I just said that you can see that number by Jagannath Puri,
Yes,
Lord Chaitanya's beads. But it appears that sometimes Lord Chaitanya would just chant on his fingers. by this description in the Caitanya Charitamrta. So,
Yes, Guru.
so, but he did use beads sometimes. At least in the Gambhira, there's beads that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used. What do you do if you're the reason for someone's bad experience with Krishna consciousness? How to rectify? Sometimes people are just not attracted to Krishna consciousness for one reason or other, and they would have a bad experience in any case. You know, it's not that every time that someone's had a bad experience that we're the one someone had a bad experience in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes people just they don't like Krishna consciousness, or it takes some time. I'll give you an example of my brother, who I saw today. I definitely gave my brother a bad time in Krishna. He wasn't attracted to Krishna consciousness when I first joined the movement. He came to the temple and just like wouldn't come into the temple, wouldn't take any prasadam. And he had a really bad experience because he wasn't attracted to Krishna consciousness. And today I just met with him and we went to see my mother earlier. And he said that he's been watching my films and he was seeing me play the guitar. And what else? He was reciting some of the jokes I told. He liked the jokes I told. And he was, what else did he say? He said if I ever need any more computer equipment, he'd pay for it. Pretty good. So I just told him I need a new jet plane, some other things like that. And he laughed. But in any case, sometimes people just they're not ready for Krishna consciousness. And it's not that we're capable of giving them a better experience in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes they're just not ready. And sometimes it's better not to expose people to Krishna consciousness too deeply. Sometimes it's better just to give people prasadam and just wait for prasadam to act. It just depends on the circumstance. Okay, we're going to end now since we're at the airport and our plane's not for a few hours. But I just don't want to just keep disturbing everybody here in the airport. But I think everybody could hear me nicely.
Yes.
So by Krishna's grace, with the little electronic masks, and people could hear me. People could hear nicely. Okay, so we'll see everybody tomorrow, same time.